What's going on, everybody? This is the blockchain backer bringing you the latest cryptocurrency news and analysis. And today we're going to be taking a look over here at the total altcoin market cap. This chart's actually excluding Ethereum, but we're also going to take a peek over at the Bitcoin price chart, the Ethereum price chart, and other altcoin market cap charts, because today we're going to take a bigger perspective look of what's going on in the cryptocurrency market to see if we can wrap our heads around everything going on here. For those who have been with the channel, we've discussed about a double tap, bull flag, breakout, back test, V bottom that happens regularly in charts when you break above an all-time high, especially one that was set for years. And well, we've V bottomed, but we've essentially gone sideways here on the total altcoin market cap excluding Ethereum. We've also done that on the total altcoin market cap when we include Ethereum. So this is going to include every cryptocurrency in the cryptocurrency market except for Bitcoin. And well, we have a different picture over here when we include Bitcoin, as we can see that when we broke above the all-time high, there was not the same structure of double tapping the top of the all-time high. We do see the pullback right down here into the bull flag on top of this double tap. So could we essentially say it's the same thing? I think it's pretty close. But moreover, our main focus is going to be over here on the total altcoin market cap and the total altcoin market cap when we exclude Ethereum. One thing we obviously know is that the Bitcoin market cap has hit a 4.236 extension, and it has gotten heavily knocked back from that price level. I've shared my thoughts on it. It's clearly obvious where I stand at this point. I am bearish on Bitcoin long term, but before you smash that thumbs down button for anybody who doesn't agree with that, just know that I've had this YouTube channel for over 2 years, and for the 2 years, I was very bullish on Bitcoin the whole time, with a year of being bullish, of expecting Bitcoin prices to reach out to these levels. While Bitcoin was below 10,000, I became bearish on Bitcoin in here, remained bullish on Bitcoin in here, and then bearish on Bitcoin here again. So it's less to do with narratives, all to do with technicals, and you can go back through the history of my YouTube channel, check those time periods, see what was going on, the words that I was saying in March and April and May, looking for the prices to fall, and then go see what I was saying in May, June, and July, expecting the prices to rise back up and set a new all-time high. And if you would like, go watch videos through there, looking for the $70,000 area price point for Bitcoin. But the point of this video is to not sit here and be bearish on Bitcoin. It's just to lay the foundation of where we're going with this video. Because the reality is there's a lot of altcoins in this market that haven't taken off yet. And the big question is, are they going to? And that takes us back over here to total 3, which is the entire altcoin market excluding Ethereum, to say, is there any further up that this can go? And so what we're going to do in this video is we're going to run some mathematical equations using the Bitcoin market cap, and we're going to talk about what happens in these structures where you have a breakout into an all-time high with a double tap, bull flag, breakout, back test, V bottom, sideways consolidation. Is there any magical way that this chart could just start cranking to the upside? I feel that before we start running a bunch of mathematical equations to try to guess how high this thing could go, we have to lay the foundation and let everybody decide, is it even realistic that it is even going to break to the upside? And I'll show you a few things of double tap, back test, bull flag, breakout, V bottoms, and then how we do this. Now, I posted this chart over on Twitter yesterday, and I've talked about this throughout the beginning of my YouTube channel, that Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies are heavily tied to the stock market. I know there's a lot of perception out there that, the world is going to fall apart, but cryptocurrencies are going to save the day. When we look through the history of how crypto has performed and how the Dow Jones Industrial Average has performed, there's an unbelievable correlation between when the Dow Jones is bearish and when the Dow Jones is bullish. If the Dow Jones is breaking out into new levels, new highs, hey, that's a big cryptocurrency bull run that happens at the same time. If the Dow Jones goes flat, sideways, goes into consolidation, so does crypto. I talked about this on my YouTube channel a few weeks ago, and I had posted it over here on Twitter on December 1st. And then retweeted it yesterday. But one thing we can see is that the Dow Jones has been going sideways to flat ever since April, which, as we should all know, April 14th, right there, is where Bitcoin reversed on itself and has just been going sideways flat since then. And that in the moment leading up to that, from March, we had risen 85%. And then since that moment, we've risen 6%, 7%, but nothing like what we were doing leading up to this moment after starting to go flat. But is the stock market about to start breaking out and setting new highs all over again? Well, historically, that's very good for cryptocurrency. But I think we need to take a step back and talk about these double tap, bull flag, breakout, bull back test, V bottoms, and all that kind of good stuff. Because back in March, I had this YouTube channel and I was still bullish on cryptocurrency and I was still bullish on the stock market. And I was bullish on crypto because I was bullish on the stock market to say, hey, I understand what's happening over here in the stock market. We've had our double tap right here. This is an aggressive V bottom that's going to come back and backtest and break back up and go into new all-time highs. And at that time, I specifically said I'm remaining bullish on cryptocurrencies, even though Bitcoin flash crashed to $4,000, taking the altcoin market with it. The altcoin market went down to $50 billion. $50 billion. At the altcoin market's most recent high, it was $1.7 trillion. So at that time, I had this YouTube channel. Altcoin market hits $50 billion. Still remained bullish because of what I saw going on in the stock market and understanding that cryptocurrencies are tied to stock market performance. But these double taps on top of the all-time high with a bull flag breakout backtest are not limited to just the stock market. We saw this also occurred with Ethereum back in 2017, and we can see how Ethereum double tapped on top of the all-time high with its bull flag, a big breakout, and a massive aggressive backtest into the bull flag before going on to set its final run. And as we were trying to survive May, June, and July with a massive aggressive fall in Bitcoin and in the altcoin market, I presented this argument that that's what I believed was occurring, that we had a break above the all-time high, double tap, bull flag, breakout, backtest into the bull flag, and here we go, pushing all the way back up to the highs, and then now we're going sideways. But I keep saying that, I'm bearish on Bitcoin. I don't think there's much more to go up with Bitcoin, but I'm bullish on the altcoin market because while we did have a run up here in the altcoin market earlier this year, there's obviously an element that is missing here at the ending phase where we haven't seen the altcoin market surge up for an ending of Bitcoin, like we have seen in previous ending cycles in here where there's one final push up in the altcoin market. We saw that in 2017. We also saw that back here in 2013. So that element is missing from here. And while you can believe it's just not going to happen this time, that's up for everybody to decide for themselves. But for me, all of my analysis is based on how the market has performed before. To believe this time is different means it's just a gamble and it's just a guess based on nothing. And I have to base everything I do based on something that has happened previously. Otherwise, I'm just taking a shot in the dark based on narratives that are fed to me by the media and corporations and self-serving interest groups. Because we should all know by now that every narrative and every media story that we get is spoon-fed to us when we're supposed to be spoon-fed it. And if we're basing any of our investment theses based off what the narrative being fed to us is, well, we're going to get wrong-footed. How many people have been wrong-footed from laser eyes and diamond hands? How many people were wrong-footed thinking that Bitcoin's bear market was set in when Bitcoin hit $29,000? China bans Bitcoin. Elon Musk. All that stuff, all these things, they just happen at the right time. And I can't base anything I do based off of these narratives and stories because they always show up right when they're supposed to show up. When you understand ABC technical corrections and you understand Fibonacci retracements and you see something retraced to a 702 Fibonacci retracement and then suddenly a media storm of negative news erupts, you know that's timed news. You know that was planned. But it scares the living daylights out of retail investors. And so the point I'm really getting at here is that I have to base everything I do off of things that have happened before and the way this market has operated previously. And obviously, one thing that is clearly missing in here for an ending phase of a cryptocurrency bull run is what usually happens, is that there is some type of final explosion in the altcoins with a rotation from Bitcoin into altcoins. And we just don't have that here yet. So my bias is going to be that the altcoin market is going to go up higher due to that element missing from the cryptocurrency market. But why would I feel that way if I believe that the top of the Bitcoin bull run is in, we've already hit a 4.236 extension, and that we're not going to go cranking up to new extreme prices? $100,000 isn't going to happen. And it comes back to what happens at the ending phases, and that we know when the 2017 bull run was over, even after the top of Bitcoin was already in, it was in the retracement phase of Bitcoin that the altcoin market significantly pumped. Ethereum's top right here did not come in when Bitcoin's top came in. This was where Bitcoin's top was. This was a big fall for Ethereum back to $500, but when Ethereum rose up and hit $1,400, that was right here. It's also where XRP went off and hit $3.30. It's where Cardano went off and hit its high above $1. It's where most of the action took place in the altcoin market. So will this time be different? Who knows? But I'm going to base it off of the things that I've seen happen here in this market before. In that, I have absolutely seen double tap, bull flag, back test, V bottom, breakout, sideways consolidation, breakout into a 5-wave structure that ends a bubble. And so that's what my anticipation is for the altcoin market. And an example of how that can happen even happened in Bitcoin back in 2017. And we've talked about this one before as well, is that you have your double tap, your bull flag, your breakout, and then your back test into the bull flags. And then what do? You go back up in a V bottom, and then what occurs here? You go sideways like this nasty stuff, which has been what we've seen over here in the altcoin market, going sideways, just like we've had in here. And it's also the same stuff we've seen happening over here in the Dow Jones Industrial Average, which Bitcoin and the cryptocurrency market has a tendency to follow. And we can see clearly in here the aggressive rise of 85% up until April and only 6 to 7% since then. So my bias for the altcoin market is that there are still 5 waves to head to the upside. Now, will they be as aggressive as this, going this much higher for the altcoin market? We're going to have some fun today, and we're going to run some mathematical equations to see if we can take our best guess. And we won't spend very much time talking about this because I'm sure people are getting tired of hearing about it, but we're going to be able to do these mathematical equations by looking over here at the Bitcoin plus Ethereum dominance. And as we know, if you've been watching this channel at all, one video at all within the last month, you've seen this right here, right? We've seen that we've had this same pit stop occur here in the Ethereum plus Bitcoin dominance as we did back in 2017. We can see the beginning stages of what looks like is starting to break down. And we know that in this scenario, if we were to have an equivalent move in here, it would take us down to about a 41-42% dominance for Bitcoin and Ethereum combined. And now this is where a lot of guesswork is going to have to happen in here. And these things can change, but we'll just base it off of things that we've seen before. And let me say this as well. I'm far more bearish on Bitcoin than I am Ethereum because of the structure that Bitcoin has, super cycles that we have for Bitcoin. All things indicate we're up in the top region, which I've spent nearly 2 years arguing that the entire run up and the bear market for Bitcoin in 2018 through 2020 was a mirror of what occurred back in here in 2012 and 2013 for Bitcoin, and that we are just running up a big major super cycle for Bitcoin, and that in these structures where you have the crash, retrace, reaccumulation, breakout to a 4.236, these things typically end very ugly, which is what we witnessed for Ethereum back in 2017 with the crash, retrace, reaccumulation, and then the breakout to a 4.236 extension. It ended very ugly, setting new lows below the low that was placed in here. So for Bitcoin in that scenario, that's like going to $2,000 to do something similar to that. But the difference for Ethereum here is if we see what the setup is like in here for Ethereum, this is not the same setup that Bitcoin is going through in here. Bitcoin's had a very standard crash, retrace back to retracement levels with reaccumulation breakout. Ethereum has had a much lower accumulation area down in here, similar to what the accumulation was like for Bitcoin back in here. So while Ethereum has hit the 4.236 extension on its market cap as represented here, and I have sold over 80% of my Ethereum after accumulating all of it in here and here, I do recognize that the structure for Ethereum is different than the structure for Bitcoin. So when we look over here at the Bitcoin dominance plus the Ethereum dominance, we have to take into account what if things are different, right? What if Bitcoin is in the bear market, right? But what if Ethereum also breaks up higher and the Bitcoin and Ethereum dominance do fall? Yet the altcoin market is massively outperforming it. And if you kind of think about that for a second, you can really start going in a lot of different directions on what could end up happening and how all these calculations could be flawed if Ethereum does something different than what Bitcoin does. If Bitcoin's in its bear market, but Ethereum breaks out higher, but then the Ethereum and Bitcoin dominance also still fall down to 40%, or what if Ethereum goes into its bear market and Ethereum's going into a retracement and then the dominance goes to 40%, you're going to get different numbers no matter what calculation you do, and especially if Ethereum does break out and go into new all-time highs, and then you're still calculating 42% and you don't know how high, or 40% for the Bitcoin and Ethereum dominance, and you don't know how high they're going to go or how high Ethereum's going to go, it's going to mess with all of the calculations. So the only thing we can do here is try to say what has happened in the past and try to give what would happen in that circumstance. And the positive thing about doing that is it would give a worst case scenario. And of course things can always be worse, but like we can draw out a lot of things. We could say, okay, Ethereum's going to break down, and then when it goes into this retracement, this is where the dominance for Bitcoin and Ethereum is completely falling. And then we could say the same thing for Bitcoin as it goes into this retracement. This is where the Bitcoin and Ethereum dominance are falling. And we can calculate everything based on that, because that's something similar we have seen happen before, where we have the initial big fall and then into the retracement. But like, well, let's say Bitcoin does do this right in here. It goes up into the retracement, but Ethereum doesn't fall this far. Ethereum falls down into here, and then Ethereum goes and sets new highs, right? Well, that's going to mess with the whole calculation entirely. But in the end, we're trying to figure out what can total 3 get to? What can the rest of the altcoin market get to for its market cap? And I think the safest way to even try to guess is to go with this scenario that Ethereum does fall, because that would give us a lower number. If we start using this and saying, hey, that's what's going to end up happening for Ethereum, then we're going to get a higher number for the total 3. And I think it's safer to say, well, what would it be if Ethereum is falling and going into a bear market at the same time that Bitcoin is? Because that's going to give us a lower number for total 3, and kind of say, well, this is what the scenario would be in this worser of the scenarios. Because a better scenario, I think, would be if Ethereum does break up higher. But then you start questioning, well, what happens if Ethereum doesn't, if Ethereum starts falling much lower? So these can always be modified if Ethereum changes in the future, but at the current phase that we're in the market at right now, it seems safest to attempt to try to run this calculation under the assumption that Ethereum and Bitcoin are in a bear market, and what would the total 3 value be during a retracement if Bitcoin and Ethereum's dominance went to 42%. So I'll take a lot of this off of the screen, and essentially it becomes a guessing game, right? It's like, well, where's the bottom of Ethereum going to come in right here before a retracement comes in? Does the bottom come in down in here to close this gap? Then it goes into a retracement. Then Ethereum's all done. Or does Ethereum have a further fall down to go? Then it gets back into the retracement, and then it goes down. But either way, no matter where we put this thing, it's still going to get us here into this range, getting us back up into here. So all of these are still taking us into a value on a retracement of somewhere between about 500 billion and 425 billion for Ethereum. So if we take the mean average of those, it gives us about 463 is what the average is for those on a retracement for Ethereum's market cap. Same story for Bitcoin, right? If you assume that the retracement was going to occur from right here, it'd take you right up there to about 1.15 trillion. If you assume the retracement is going to come in from down in here, gets you about 1.13. And a bigger, worser case scenario from down in here gets you up to about 1.1. So either way, it's about 1.11 trillion. So if we have 1.11 trillion plus 0.46 trillion, it gives you 1.573 trillion. So in the event that Ethereum and Bitcoin are both in bear markets and they're both going to have big falls and then go into retracements, well, what we've seen before is that in that time period of that retracement, that's when the rest of the altcoin market takes off. So looking at the Bitcoin plus Ethereum dominance, if the two of them combined represent 40% of the market, that would mean the rest of the market would be equated to 60% of the market. So if 1.53 trillion equals 40%, then our algebraic equation is 1.573 trillion equals 40% of x. And we have to figure out what x is, which means that x equals 3.932 trillion. And so if we know the total market cap of crypto equals 3.932 trillion, we have to solve for y, which would be 60% of the remainder of the market, and y would represent total 3, or all altcoins excluding Ethereum, which would mean that the total altcoin market cap excluding Ethereum would equal 2.359 trillion. So in this circumstance of where Ethereum falls and retraces, and where Bitcoin falls and retraces, If it does what we've seen happen before, that into the retracement, this is where the remainder of the altcoin market takes off. And if this is also where the Bitcoin plus Ethereum dominance collapses on itself and the remainder of the market takes 60% of the market share, the remainder of the market would be equal to 2.359 trillion, which would mean in this scenario, total three, all altcoins minus Bitcoin minus Ethereum would get right about there, about 2.35 trillion, which would get your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that's where the top would be. Now, if something happened differently for Ethereum, like if Ethereum was a part of the run up with the altcoin market, it would change this whole thing in here, because if Ethereum's prices are higher as Bitcoin has crashed and gone into a retrace, all these calculations will change. But the thing that would change would be that this would actually just be shifted up higher instead of lower. So again, let's go back through what all of this is based on, because it's a lot of elements that would have to play out perfectly for all of those things to happen. Is that one, you'd have to see the fall down happen over here in the Bitcoin and the Ethereum dominance, which it does appear that we are in the early phases of something like that occurring in here. You'd also have to be a believer in the double tap bull flag breakout backtest V bottom, where it goes sideways and then with 5 waves up, as we saw happen over here for Bitcoin with its double tap bull flag breakout backtest V bottom, followed by sideways, and then 5 waves. And you'd also have to believe that the stock market is going to break out into new all-time highs for the Dow Jones Industrial Average, and that it has a similar structure happening for it as well, leading to a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. For me personally, I do believe that's what's happening over here in the Dow Jones Industrial Average. I am also a believer in the double tap on top of the all-time high with the bull flag breakout backtest V bottom, and that should be apparent by the conviction I had all through May, June, and July, and that this is a phenomenon that does occur back here at the highs, as we see with the Dow Jones, and as we saw with Bitcoin. And you have to believe that the total market cap, or total market cap of all altcoins excluding Ethereum, can rampage into a retracement for Bitcoin, which I believe. And like stated earlier, you'd have to believe that the Ethereum and Bitcoin dominance combined will fall to 40%. And for me, that is my bigger, broader perspective of this market, that Ethereum and Bitcoin are going to bleed out into the rest of the market. The dominance will fall to 40%, and into Bitcoin's retracement is where the top of the rest of the altcoin market would come in. And mathematically, in those scenarios for retracement for Bitcoin and in a retracement for Ethereum, with their market caps, and if the rest of the market equates 60%, that takes us to 2.35 trillion. And that's my perspective of this market, because even the math of all of this tells us that we need to get to those types of numbers in order for a lot of these coins to still have a big run, especially the ones that are lagging behind. In particular, for XRP. XRP has flipped Ethereum multiple times. But if we're talking about Ethereum's market cap remaining right around here, and for XRP to catch up to it, we're talking about adding $400 billion to XRP. Well, look at us now. We're at 923 billion. That's nearly adding half of what we already have right now. But we're talking about adding a total of 1.4 trillion to the current number right now. And that makes sense to me, because it's not just XRP that is lagging behind, but a lot of altcoins that haven't done anything for the majority of the year. And I find it very hard to believe that only a few of them will go, when historically, as shown on the chart earlier, typically everything rises at the end. And so whether things change and prices are higher, it could push this figure even higher. But in the scenario that I'm looking at right now, where Ethereum and Bitcoin both pull back hard and then go into a retracement, and then the remainder of the market goes, that gets you to about 2.35 trillion. And as time progresses, we can try to modify this more and more. But this is my bigger, broader perspective of the market right now, is that for the remainder of the altcoin market, excluding Bitcoin and excluding Ethereum, the math all checks out for a $2.35 trillion market cap. And so that was a lot. And I hope I didn't lose everybody on that one. And for anybody hearing the whole double tap on top of the all-time high bull flag breakout backtest V bottom, hearing that for the first time, you probably think that's crazy nonsense. But it was something that was discussed dozens and dozens of times throughout May, June, and July to get us through that moment that those price levels would hold for the altcoin market, and that we would hold for Bitcoin as well. So it may take a rewatch of this video if you're hearing that for the very first time. But for all those who are very rehearsed in hearing that term, which I need to make a t-shirt of, double tap all-time high, bull flag breakout, back test V bottom. It's very normal to consolidate up at the top and then go on into the 5-wave structure. And that's what I'm looking at for the remainder of the altcoin market. And that's what I'm excited for. But right now it is just a waiting game. And there's no question a lot of people are starting to get impatient, but we don't have any choice but to continue waiting. So I'll go ahead and wrap this thing up. I hope that you guys are having a good week. I know a lot of people getting back into the swing of getting back to work this week. Some people still enjoying the rest of the year off till we get to the new year. But otherwise, I do hope that you're having a good week. On that note, I'll wrap this thing up. If you're looking for something to do, you could check out my website over here, bcbacker.com. This is a course that I put together where I deep dive into the previous Bitcoin bull runs, the previous altcoin market cycles, tying them all together to show how the alt seasons and cryptocurrency cycles have worked in the past. I talk about my personal exit plans in here, and I teach you how to set up your own charts and your own indicators within TradingView and CoinTrader Pro so you can do your own charting. I did recently add the exit plan part 4 final update right here for Ethereum and the blockchain backer exit plan part 4 progress update. Most recent market update in there is November 30th. And you can check out all of this educational content over here on bcbacker.com. You can follow me over here on Twitter at bcbacker. And I want to thank you so much for watching my channel. If you could, please like this video and give it a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you could be notified of when I create new content and when I go live. As always, this is not investment advice, and I am not a financial advisor. But if you ever need a pick-me-up or a little bit of reassurance, just remember that the blockchain backers got your back. Have a good one.